the Confederacy Naval Academy, the pride of the galaxy. Here, only the brightest cadets of every species trained to become officers. When Liora Kane arrived, she didn't look like the others. Her uniform was standard issue, no insignias, no custom tailoring. Her boots were worn, her stride deliberate. The others noticed, and then they whispered the word, Earthborn. "Look at her uniform," one cadet laughed. "Backwater trash," another muttered. They jeered as she walked toward the towering gate. To them, Earth was nothing but a ruined rock, a scar on the galaxy's past. No one expected much from her. No one except the scanner. The beam washed over her. The crowd waited for the usual green light. Instead, it pulsed red. A mechanical voice declared for all to hear, "Earthborn detected. Do not engage." The courtyard froze. Smiles vanished. Cadets who mocked her seconds ago now stepped back, eyes wide. They had all heard the warnings. Never fight an Earthborn. Never provoke them. Never underestimate them. It wasn't superstition. It was survival. The Confederacy didn't brand Earthborn red out of bias. They did it because history had proven Earthborn never broke. They never yielded. They fought until nothing remained. Liora didn't flinch. She had seen this 100 times. At checkpoints, at borders, at every world she dared to step foot on, but she wasn't here to be liked. She wasn't here to fit in. She was here to prove something to herself and to the galaxy. Every Earthborn carried the weight of a scarred world, a world that taught them one lesson above all: survive. One cadet, braver or more foolish than the rest, muttered under his breath, "Red light or not, she's still just a human." But no one laughed this time. Not after the scanner's warning. Not after seeing the look in her eyes. What these cadets didn't know was simple. Earthborn weren't trained for survival. They were born into it. On Earth, every day was a battlefield, every meal a struggle, every breath a victory. The galaxy could mock them. The galaxy could fear them. But the galaxy could never erase the truth. Liora Kane didn't come to the Academy for glory. She came for war. And soon, every cadet, every instructor, and every officer would learn why the scanner had spoken. Earthborn, do not engage. If you want to know what happens when the galaxy finally does engage, stay with this story. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter of Liora Kane's fight. And if you believe Earthborn never yield, hit the like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The Academy thought they were training her, but in truth, she was about to train them, and this was only the beginning. The Academy did not forget the red scanner. Every cadet who witnessed it carried the warning like a shadow. Some avoided Liora Kane entirely. Others whispered when she passed, and a few plotted. The instructors said nothing, but their silence was not neglect. Every drill, every sparring session, every simulation, all recorded, all dissected. They weren't training her. They were containing her. Yet Liora excelled. Where others faltered in zero gravity, she adapted. Where cadets broke under survival drills, she endured. Earth had been her crucible. The Academy, a playground. Her dominance could not go unanswered. And so came the combat trials, mock duels to test skill and discipline. Names called, matches fought, cheers rising until hers was announced, Liora Kane, against Jorith Ve. Jorith Ve, a Karth Dominion brute, bred for war, towering over the crowd. To him this was no exercise. It was a chance to humiliate the Earthborn, to prove her weak before all. He struck first, precision, force, overwhelming power. Each blow thundered, enough to break bone if not for the stunner's limiters. Liora yielded no ground. She moved like water, absorbing, redirecting, surviving. Then came the moment. In 3 motions, she twisted his arm, swept his leg, and slammed him to the ground, stunner pressed to his chest. The mighty warrior defeated by the one they mocked. The arena froze. Above them, the scanner flickered to life. Its voice filled the silence once more. Earthborn detected. Do not engage. This was no procedure. It was prophecy. Jorith stared up at her rage tempered by fear. The cadets who mocked her now saw the truth. She was not fragile. She was not an outcast. She was Earthborn, and Earthborn never yielded. On the balcony, the instructors exchanged uneasy glances. They had wanted to test her limits. Instead, they uncovered something buried. Earthborn were not anomalies. They were weapons. If you believe Earthborn are more than legend, prove it. Hit the like button to stand with Liora Kane. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter of her story. And share this with a friend who knows humanity was forged for survival. The Academy thought the combat trial was her test, but soon they will learn the true test is war, and when war comes, the galaxy will remember the warning, Earthborn, do not engage. The duel with Jorith Ve had changed everything. The instructors called it a statistical anomaly, but the cadets who witnessed it knew the truth. She wasn't lucky, she wasn't fast, she was dangerous. And the scanner's words still echoed. Earthborn detected. Do not engage. Liora Kane walked the halls in silence, but silence followed her. Cadets stepped aside when she passed. Others whispered behind her back. Her name had become a warning. Then came the call. The frigate Resolute had gone dark near the Parathian Rift. A recovery team was required. 8 cadets were chosen, and Liora was one of them. For most, it was training. For her, it was something else. The shuttle ride was tense. Cadets strapped in, armor polished, eyes filled with nerves. Across from her sat Jorith Ve. No taunts, no laughter, only clenched fists, and something new in his gaze. Respect. The Resolute drifted like a corpse in the void, hull scarred, lights flickering. Inside darkness, no bodies, no signs of struggle, only silence. But Liora knew that silence well. On Earth, silence meant predators. Then the shadows erupted. Raiders poured from the wreckage, disciplined, armored, relentless. The cadets faltered. Formation shattered. Jorith roared, smashing through the first attacker. But still, they kept coming. Liora moved, no hesitation, no waste. Every shot struck true. Every strike calculated. The cadets had training. But she had something more. She had survival. The fight ended. Silence returned. Cadets panted, wounded, broken. But Liora still stood. Weapon steady. Breath even. She didn't relax. She listened. On Earth, the second wave was always worse. The scanner pulsed red. Its voice thundered across the wreck. Earthborn detected. Do not engage. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was a reminder. They had survived because of her. Not training, not protocol, her. Even Jorith lowered his gaze. "You're not just a cadet," he muttered. "You're a weapon." Back at the academy, reports spread like wildfire. Some demanded her expulsion. Too dangerous, too unpredictable, but others whispered the opposite. That Earthborn were exactly what the Confederacy needed. But the debate would not matter, because war was coming. The Prothean Rift had not been random. It was a test, and the Confederacy was not ready, but Earthborn always were. If you believe humanity was forged for moments like this, stand with Liora Kane. Hit the like button to show your support. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter. And share this story with someone who knows. Earthborn never yield. The Academy thought the Rift was training, but it was only the beginning. Soon, the galaxy itself would tremble, and when it did, the scanner's words would echo louder than ever. Earthborn, do not engage. They no longer mocked her. They no longer sneered. The cadets of the Academy avoided Liora Kane like a shadow. Entire mess tables cleared when she entered. Jokes fell silent when she passed. What had once been laughter was now fear, and fear spreads faster than fire. But fear was not enough to keep her grounded. The Academy needed her. When the rift began to stir, when sensor nets screamed with strange energy, there was only one choice. Her name was carved into the deployment list, whether she wanted it or not. The Vigilant was no training vessel. It was old, battle-scarred, and bristling with weapons, meant for survival, not glory. To the cadets, it was their first step into the real void. To Liora Kane, it felt like looking into a mirror damaged but unbroken. Days aboard the ship passed in relentless drills. Weapons checks, long watches, endless inspections. But at night, when lights dimmed and the rift's glow bled across the stars, cadets felt something breathing out there, watching, waiting. On the 6th day, they found them. A convoy, gutted and drifting. Merchant ships torn open like prey. No survivors. No life signs. And yet, the air aboard the Vigilant grew colder. The rift shimmered. And then it opened. Jagged constructs spilled out of the rift. Not ships. Not life. Predators of obsidian and red light. They did not attack. They circled, measured, studied. And then, without warning, every scanner aboard the Vigilant bled red. The ship's AI spoke with a voice that was not its own. Earthborn detected. Do not engage. Every console flashed the warning. Every officer turned toward her. Liora stood frozen, because the words were not just for them. The enemy outside heard it too. The constructs shifted, their movements deliberate. One by one, they vanished back into the rift. No attack, no pursuit. They left with only a message. A message burned into every heart aboard the ship. Earthborn were feared by something older than the stars. Back at the Academy, silence was ordered. Reports sealed, questions forbidden. But secrets cannot hold forever. Cadets whispered louder than ever. Officers watched her every step. Surveillance drones followed her down every corridor. She was no longer a cadet. She was leverage. In her dreams, the rift called to her. She saw stars burning, ships torn apart, voices repeating one phrase over and over. Do not engage, do not engage. And in the quiet of her bunk, she began to wonder, was the galaxy warning others about her, or warning her about herself? Her next assignment was no honor. It was exile. She was reassigned to the Rift Defense Initiative, a task force meant to patrol the unknown edge. But she was not a soldier to them. She was bait. Her presence would draw the enemy, and the galaxy would watch. Jorith Vey, once her rival, no longer challenged her, no longer mocked her. His silence spoke more clearly than words. He did not see her as friend. He did not see her as enemy. He saw her as the line between survival and extinction. Deep inside, Liora Kane knew the rift had not finished with her. The message was not a command. It was a promise. Earthborn, do not engage. The galaxy believed it was a warning to the enemy, but perhaps it was a warning about her. If you followed Liora's journey this far, stay with us. The rift is only beginning to open. Subscribe now and join us for the next chapter as the mystery of the Earthborn deepens. After the rift encounter, silence ruled the academy. Cadets no longer mocked Liora Kane. They no longer sneered. They simply cleared out of her path as if her presence carried a disease. What had once been laughter was now fear, and fear spreads faster than fire. But fear was not what haunted her. Each night, Liora dreamed of burning stars, of ships ripped apart by obsidian predators, and always the same words whispered in countless voices. Earthborn detected. Do not engage. The academy tightened its grip. Surveillance drones followed her steps. Medical scans increased. They claimed it was routine. But she knew better. She was no longer treated as a cadet. She was studied. She was observed, like a weapon waiting to be drawn. Even Jorith Vey, once her loudest rival, had fallen silent. One evening she asked him directly, "Do you think I'm cursed?" His reply was quiet, almost reluctant. "No, I think you're the reason we're still alive." And then he left her with that truth. On the 14th day of patrol, the rift opened again. Jagged constructs spilled out, faster, sharper, deadlier than before. This time they did not circle. This time they struck. The Vigilant fought with everything it had. Plasma bolts lit the void, torpedoes streaked into the rift, but the constructs tore through shields, shredded hull plating, and closed in for the kill. And then Liora felt them. She felt their intent in her bones. She knew their movements before they made them. Acting on instinct, she seized the tactical station. Fingers flew over the controls, rerouting power, shifting weapon arcs, predicting enemy maneuvers with impossible precision. For 15 relentless minutes, she guided the ship. Death became near misses. Annihilation became survival. The crew who once doubted her now obeyed without question. And then, as suddenly as it began, the constructs broke away. The rift swallowed them whole, and silence returned. Every console lit red. The ship's AI spoke once more, in a voice not its own. Earthborn detected. Do not engage. The words echoed through the bridge. The crew turned their eyes on her, not in mockery this time, but in awe and fear. Back at the academy, she was dragged into secure chambers. Officers in black uniforms, faces hidden, demanded answers. How had she known their movements? How had she guided the ship? She tried to explain the whispers of the connection, but her words meant nothing to them. They dismissed her, but their silence spoke louder than any question. She was no cadet anymore. She was a weapon. That night, her dreams deepened. She saw others, faces with the same eyes scattered across distant stars. She understood then. She was not alone. Earthborn were out there, hidden, watching, waiting, and the rift was calling them all. But deeper still, she saw something else. Not the constructs, something vast, ancient, watching from within the rift. Its gaze pressed against her chest like a weight that threatened to crush her. And with it came a new word, soon. The Vigilant limped home for repairs. From the observation deck, Liora watched the rift fade in the distance. Jorith asked her quietly, what did they want? She said nothing, because she knew the truth. The constructs weren't testing the ship. They weren't testing the crew. They were testing her. And next time, they would not hold back. The rift is not done with her, and neither is the galaxy. If you've followed the Earthborn Chronicles this far, subscribe now and join us for the next chapter, where destiny and destruction draw ever closer. "14 days had passed since the battle at the edge of the rift. 14 days of silence. 14 days of waiting. The Vigilant drifted like a wounded predator. Hull plating scarred. Shields drained. Engines whining under the weight of repairs. The scars weren't just metal and wires, they were carved deep into the hearts of its crew. They had survived. Barely, but survival felt fragile. It felt borrowed. Everyone knew the rift was watching. And for Liora Kane, the silence wasn't silence at all. At night, when the lights dimmed and the ship fell into simulated sleep, she heard them. Whispers, not random sounds. Not hallucinations. Voices, thousands of them. Layered like waves crashing over one another, all broken, all distorted. At first, she thought it was the damage in the comm systems. Static leaking into her quarters, but when she muted the feed, the whispers remained. When she pressed her palms over her ears, they grew louder. And when she finally stopped resisting, she heard them clearly. They weren't just speaking. They were calling. They were calling her name. The cadets noticed. They weren't blind. They saw the shadows under her eyes. The way she jolted awake during training. The way she stared too long into nothing, as if listening to a voice no one else could hear. Rumors spread. Whispers of their own. She's the reason the constructs follow us? No, she's the reason we're still alive. She's cursed. She's chosen. Even those who once stood by her now kept their distance. The mess hall felt colder. The training deck emptier. One cadet crossed the room when she entered. Another made the sign of warding from his homeworld. Fear grew faster than trust. Admiral Tharic summoned her. The command deck smelled of ozone and engine oil, heavy with tension. His scales flickered dull bronze as he leaned across the console, voice gravel low. Cadet Kane, you carry something the galaxy fears. Do not mistake their fear for ignorance. The rift is not chasing our ship. It is chasing you. Liora swallowed, her fists clenched at her sides. Why me? she asked. "Because you are Earthborn." His eyes narrowed. "And the rift remembers Earth?" His words landed like chains. Not answers, not guidance, just wait. Yet deep inside, they didn't frighten her. They confirmed what she already knew. That night, the whispers changed. They sharpened, grew louder, almost coherent. Her vision blurred, the walls of her quarters dissolving into fire. She saw Earth, blue oceans, green forests, silver cities, her home, her blood, her birthright, and then fire. Skies cracked open, oceans boiled, cities fell. Above the destruction, constructs swarmed endless and merciless. They didn't just attack, they consumed everything. And in the heart of the flames, she saw herself standing alone, screaming, powerless. She woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, the whispers still echoing in her ears. The next day, whispers of a different kind filled the ship. Cadets argued in corridors. Officers hushed when she passed. Even her closest allies seemed uncertain. One approached her in the training deck. A friend once. He avoided her eyes. "Liora, you need to tell them. Tell command what you're hearing. Before they decide for you." Her jaw tightened. "If I tell them, they'll treat me as a weapon. Or worse, a liability." "Maybe you already are," he whispered. Before walking away, her chest ached, but she didn't stop him. She couldn't, because part of her feared he was right. Later, during simulation drills, the whispers surged again, louder, clearer. They bent her vision, warped the room. The rift wasn't waiting anymore. It was reaching. She staggered, grabbing the console, her voice cracking. "Do you hear it? Anyone?" But no one else reacted, only her. And then she heard a single word clear, unbroken, undeniable. Soon. The rift wasn't just watching. It was coming. That night it returned, the fire, the smoke, Earth itself under siege. But this time she wasn't just a witness. She was inside it. She felt the heat, the ash, the terror of billions crying out. The constructs weren't seeking random prey. They weren't testing the galaxy. They were hunting Earth, and they would burn it to claim her. When the vision faded, she stood in silence. No tears, no collapse. Only fire in her chest. If the rift sought Earth, then Earthborn would rise to meet it. If the galaxy feared her, then she would make that fear a weapon. The scanner had branded her. Do not engage. But she would not wait for orders. She would fight. And for the first time, the whispers didn't sound like chains. They sounded like a challenge. This is only the beginning. The rift has awakened. Its gaze now falls upon Earth. If you followed Liora's journey from the start, you already know humanity's fight is far from over. The galaxy feared Earthborn. Soon it will remember why. Subscribe now so you don't miss Part 7, Earthborn No More. The Vigilant floated in silence, but silence no longer meant safety. The rift's shadow followed them. Every system flicker, every unexplained pulse in the hull, every flick of static through the coms. Crew looked to her, to Liora Kane, the Earthborn cadet who now carried more fear than hope in the hearts of her peers. And in that silence, she heard it again. One word, clear, unbroken, unavoidable. Soon. The cadets broke into factions. Some feared her, believing she had cursed the ship. Others admired her believing she was the reason they had survived the rift at all. In the mess hall, words turned sharp. She's the rift's anchor. Get rid of her, and we'll be safe. No, she's the only reason we're still breathing. If you exile her, you sign our death warrant. Liora entered mid-argument, and both sides fell silent. Dozens of eyes burned into her back as she sat. Forks stilled. Conversations died. She no longer needed whispers to know what they thought. A transmission from the Galactic Academy broke the stalemate. High Command wanted Liora returned, not for protection, not for training, for containment. The order was clinical cold. Earthborn subject Liora Kane is to be isolated and studied. If she resists, force is authorized. Her stomach twisted. She wasn't a cadet anymore. She was property, a specimen, a weapon they feared more than they valued. The galaxy wasn't preparing to save her. It was preparing to dissect her. Word of the order spread fast. Some cadets stood with her. Others whispered of compliance, of survival through obedience. Even among her friends, loyalty cracked. One approached, voice shaking. Liora, if they want you contained, maybe it's for the best. Maybe they know more than we do. Her chest tightened. If they cage me, Earth burns. That's what I saw. That's what the rift showed me. Her friend lowered their eyes, and in that silence she knew, when the time came, not all would stand at her side. In secret she returned to the Academy's scanner still stored in the Vigilance cargo hold. The same scanner that had once branded her with the crimson mark. She touched it. It flickered, it awoke. Symbols she had never seen before flared across its surface. Hidden layers buried beneath its standard readings, and there written in ancient code, translated through instinct. Not learning was the truth. Earthborn weren't just anomalies. They were conduits, bridges between the galaxy and the wound in reality. The rift wasn't chasing her. It was calling her home. The alarms came before dawn's cycle. Constructs. Not one, not a squad, a swarm. They fell from the rift like burning rain. Jagged ships cutting through the void, their claws tearing space itself. The Vigilant scrambled to battle stations. Shields flared, weapons screamed, but for every construct destroyed, 3 more emerged. The rift had unleashed its fury, and the galaxy's Academy ship was its prey. The Vigilant shook under the assault. Bulkheads collapsed. Atmosphere vented into the void. Cadets screamed, scrambling to man guns to patch shields, to keep the ship alive. But no matter how hard they fought, the swarm pressed harder. The Vigilant was breaking. On the bridge, Admiral Theric slammed a fist into the console. This is no battle. This is execution. And then his eyes shifted to Liora. Unless you can do what only you can do. Liora closed her eyes. She didn't touch the weapons console. She didn't issue orders. She listened to the whispers, to the rift, to the fire that had burned inside her since birth. And then she spoke not with her mouth, but with her will. The Vigilant pulsed. Energy surged through its veins. Shields flared brighter than stars. Weapons spat fire like thunder. The constructs recoiled not from the ship, but from her. For the first time, the swarm broke. The whispers merged into one, no longer fragmented, no longer broken. A voice, ancient, inevitable, direct. Liora Kane, Earthborn, conduit, come home. Her breath caught. Her fists shook. The rift wasn't offering. It was commanding. And deep inside, she knew the truth. She wasn't just Earthborn anymore. She was something more. Something the galaxy had feared for centuries. The swarm withdrew, retreating back into the rift's black wound. The Vigilant floated battered, broken but alive. On the bridge, cadets stared at her in silence. Some with awe, others with fear. Admiral Tharic broke it with a whisper. "You are no longer a cadet, no longer Earthborn. You are something else." And for the first time, Liora accepted it. Not with pride, not with fear, but with resolve. Earthborn no more. The rift has called her home. And soon, the galaxy will witness the truth. Subscribe now so you don't miss Part 8, The Final Convergence. The Vigilant drifted through the void, broken and scarred. Debris floated past its shattered hull, each fragment a reminder of the battle survived, and the one still to come. But the silence was not peace. It was the breath before the storm. And Liora Kane could feel eyes watching her from the void. The rift was not gone. It was waiting. Liora closed her eyes. The voices came again, not words, not exactly, but meaning crawling straight into her mind. Whispers, Earthborn, unbound, come home to us. Visions clawed at her thoughts. Earth burning under skies of fire. The oceans boiled. Cities crumbled. Humanity erased. The rift wasn't just watching her. It was showing her the end. On the bridge, cadets shouted over each other. The alarms screamed. Bulkheads trembled as constructs hammered at the hull. One cadet cried out, "They're inside." "We can't hold them," another whispered in terror. "We're already dead." Fear spread like wildfire. Even the strongest began to falter, and Liora felt their fear feeding the rift. She stood frozen, her hands trembled. The rift's visions coiled around her, whispering of failure. Maybe she was the doom of humanity. Maybe that warning, "Do not engage," wasn't a threat to others, but a warning about her. Her breath caught in her chest. If she lost control, would she save Earth or destroy it herself? But then she remembered Earth, her mother's voice calling her name, her father's laughter, the stubborn will of humanity, the people who refused to kneel even when the stars themselves turned hostile. She straightened. Her eyes burned with light. "No," she whispered. "I am not your weapon. I am Earthborn." Her voice cut through the panic. "We stand. We fight. Humanity endures." The cadets looked up. Their fear cracked, replaced with something sharper. Hope. The void split wide. The rift swelled until it devoured the stars, jagged and alive. And then it stared back. A colossal shape moved behind the veil. Not a ship, not a swarm. Something older, something vast. Its eyes, if they were eyes, locked onto Liora. Whisper booming across her mind, "Child of Earth, you are ours." The bridge shuddered as power surged through the Vigilant. Liora raised her arms, light pouring from her veins. The ship answered her call. Shields flared. Cannons roared. Bolts of fire lanced across the void. Constructs shattered in waves, broken like glass. For the first time, the rift itself recoiled. Cadets gasped in awe. Some knelt. Others shouted her name like a war cry. But Liora's eyes blazed brighter. She was beyond fear, beyond limits. The swarm broke. The rift's edge rippled, folding back like a wounded beast. Silence fell. The vigilant floated, bleeding fire into the void. But still alive, humanity had survived the first trial. Earthborn had endured. On the bridge, cadets embraced, laughing and sobbing. But Liora did not celebrate. Her body trembled. Her veins still burned, and in the silence, she still heard the rift. A voice curled in her mind, louder than before. Not soft, not tempting, but a promise, whisper echoing like thunder. You cannot kill what was never alive. We are endless, and we are coming. For Earth, her breath caught, this was not an end. This was only the beginning. Liora Kane stood at the shattered viewport, staring into the dark wound in the stars. The galaxy had tried to warn them. Do not engage, but humanity had never obeyed warnings. The rift stared back, and humanity would not blink. This was Part 8 of the Earthborn Chronicles. Humanity's first battle is over, but the war has only begun. Subscribe now, because when the rift returns, you'll want to be here.